Let's review. Huh? I know you already had this lecture, right? Before, when I did. Okay, but let's review. First thing that you have to know in the English subject is the subject. The English language, you have to know the subject. You have to be able to find it. You have to know what it is. So let's simplify whatever the book says. Okay, what is a subject? Huh? What did your book say?
Usually can be narrowed down to a word or name.
Okay, so it's the name of a person, place, or thing. That's what they teach us in English, right?
Right.
In our grammar school, that's what they teach us. In elementary, that's the first thing they tell us when they start teaching about subjects. Subjects being part of a sentence. You know, there's what you call, this is a mathematical equation, 2 plus 2, or if you want, we'll do calculus, equals 4. Okay? Or for example, calculus, 2x equals 2, therefore x equals 1. Because you go divide, and there you go. Calculus, x equals 1. Both are mathematical equations. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. Right? There is what you call in English a sentence pattern or a sentence equation. The boy is running. Oh, there she is? Yeah, all right. Not first.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to slow down. You just get coffee. Relax, relax. Don't follow that. She's right here. If you need to go out, go ahead. No problem. The boy is running. What is this?
Subject.
Okay, it's the subject. And it is what kind of word? These are basic. Huh?
Person?
This is a, what kind of
A noun.
noun?
Now.
Okay. So, this is what?
Predicate.
Huh?
A
Okay,
verb.
so of course, when you go do this, there is a subject, there is a predicate. Okay? Now, this word is what?
A verb.
It is a verb. Okay? And what is it?
Action.
Okay, so this is also, because it's an action word, run is an action word. When it ends in ing, what kind of verb is it? It's called a transitive verb. Okay? And then all the parts, there is this is an intransitive verb, IV. Okay? This is a period, of course. So if you look at the word equation, it goes like this: S, IV, PV. That subject has that sentence has a subject, an intransitive verb, is, and a transitive verb. Okay? Did you understand?
Yeah.
Really? Man, you guys are geniuses. One explanation, you already understand? I don't really care about that. You know, I'm not going to teach you that. Because have you ever gone to your office and said, please find out in the sentence what the intransitive verb is? See? So, you know, there are academics who pride themselves on doing that. I'm not going to do that here. I could have studied grammar for years, but you know, I always had people who knew better grammar than me. My professor, for example, I give them my articles and they go, very good. Do this, do this, do this, do this. Now see if I do it or not. Because sometimes when you write, there is a certain style that you want to keep. So even if you write that way, you know, for example, some people do not want me to start a sentence with an article. That's a grammatical rule. Do not start and end a sentence with an article. What's an article? Or a preposition, I'm sorry, a preposition.
Or if.
Okay, so you don't start a sentence by saying, or I'm going to, you know, they don't want you to do that. What they want you to do is to use or in a proper way as a preposition. But sometimes there are times when that's what I want to do. Sometimes I want to use ain't. A-I-N-T, which is not a word. Okay? And it drives English professors batty. Alright? So what can you do about that? Nothing. Other than we need to have a grasp of English in order to teach it in such a way, okay, so we can discuss it in such a way that it is something that is useful to you. Okay, so again, we start with the question, what is a subject? Let me define it for you this time in simplest terms. A subject, okay, answers a question. And it is talking about, a subject is talking about what or who. That's it. That will narrow it down for you. Instead of going into a person, place, or thing, you know, a subject can be a proper noun, a common noun. Don't matter. So you answer about what or who. For example, I am talking. What's the subject?
I.
Yeah, because what answers what or who? Right? So you ask the question, who is talking? Or what is talking? Right? And you will come up with the answer, I am talking. Now, can a what talk? Who talks? People. But can a what talk? What talks? Sometimes, yeah, a what can talk. For example, the TV is talking. The radio is talking. The computers are talking.
Yes,
See? So we have those things now, right? Okay. So every sentence needs a subject. Okay? There is no correct sentence. If you're writing something, you need a subject. If you follow this in your verbal conversations, you will find that your ideas are absorbed in a better way. You know? Because if you will record yourself, we have a tendency to sometimes talk in sentence fragments, but it is better to talk in a sentence, and a sentence can only happen if you're talking about a subject. You remember some people who mumble and they're really not talking about anything, they're talking about nothing? See? That's why especially it's not important for you to prepare when you're talking to me, but if you are talking to anybody, you want to prepare. You underline. Sometimes what I do is, I need to talk to this person, so I'll write the things that I want to. And I'll just write in small words, small letters on a piece of paper, if I want to talk about payment, signatures, so I don't forget anything, you know. Whatever it is that I want to talk to this person about, I make sure that I write down the subject, the noun, on a piece of paper, so I remember. If I want to talk about this girl's hair, I will put that there. Of course, I'm not talking about casual conversation, I'm talking about a business conversation, okay? So, every sentence needs a subject. If you don't have the subject, the sentence is incorrect. And nobody will understand what you're talking about. Now, sometimes, this does not apply when we are talking verbally. For example, I already talked to you before, and then I said, the lanterns. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Because I'm looking for, there's pieces of string across my hall, and there's no lanterns, right? Now, you would know that if you've been to church, if you've come to church, if you saw them in Easter, if you saw all the colors, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But generally, if you start writing that, no one will understand. Now, in other languages, the subject is not required. Sometimes it's not always required. Well, it still is used, but it's not always required. For example, in Spanish, they just take away the yo all the time. I, right? They just say the verb, and then complete the sentence without a subject. In English, we cannot do that. Verbally, the person listening to you will understand what you are talking about. So a subject is not required, but in English, it is always required. Okay? Next, what is a predicate? So we already talked about a subject. What is a predicate? The subject is the more important part. The predicate is the one that depends on the subject. That's why it's predicated on the subject. Okay? Remember that. Predicate comes from that word, the same root word as predicated. Predicated means it depends. For example, somebody asked me, will I come to church? It's predicated on how I feel, because last night I felt lousy. Okay? So when I say predicated, that means depend. The predicate in a sentence is the section that informs the person what the subject is or what it is doing. Okay? So, for example, the subject is the person. The person is a boy. See, two nouns, right? Sometimes you go, which is the subject there? Is it here or here? Okay? Because this can be tricky because, of course, you can look and say, oh, the boy is the subject. This is the predicate. Right? Here's the intransitive verb. Here's the article. But really, what starts is the subject. Because we mentioned this first. This is the subject. This is the predicate. Now, this portion tells you who the person is. Okay? So, this noun is now the subject. It is also a noun, right? So, it tells you what this is, or let's change the second part, the person is running. Now more simple, right? Because we know now that this is a predicate because that's a verb, and this is a noun. So, to define predicate, a predicate says, okay, here I am, says what is the subject or what is it doing. Okay? It's a more practical approach. It's not the technical approach of finding these things. If you find this word talking about something, okay, talking about what it is, or telling you what it's doing, then that is the predicate. Alright? Can I erase now? Okay? Did you copy the notes? Be sure to copy the notes. This is going to come up in the exam. Okay? As simple as these things are, make sure you have the notes. Alright? I'm going to erase. Okay. Now, what is a verb? What is your definition of a verb? A verb is an action word. Okay, we accept that because that is what we've been taught ever since we were small. We were 3 years old and a verb is an action word. Okay? Now, sometimes that's not the case. You know, again, the technicalities of English dictate that sometimes a verb is not necessarily just an action word. So, a verb is an action verb. That's a slam dunk. Is an action, okay, or occurrence. Okay, it's an action, an occurrence, or an existence. All right, that will be a little. There's no more. Oh, here's a little like that. Let's try to explain that. That's why sometimes it's a little hard for a verb. You know? In the sentences that we have used so far. So I have used the boy. Oh, you see that the boy is blonde. Okay. The boy is blonde. Because I've been using plain verbs, right? Meaning I've been using action words. Where's the action word there?
Is
Is
used.
Huh? subject. So when they ask you, what is the verb there? The verb is is. Is an action word? No, but what does it say? It is either one, an occurrence or an existence. So in this case, is what? I know, but which one? Existence or occurrence? It's an occurrence. Happens to be this person as well. Okay? But you can still answer it's existence, but it's, I think it's more of the, again, English is an indefinite, as far as I'm concerned, it's an indefinite language, you know. And nowadays, if I say the boy is blonde, does that mean automatically that the hair is blonde? When can I say this to one? One is blonde.
After leaving Claro.
Huh?
After leaving Claro.
You know, his hair is still black, but I just called one a blonde. Don't be mad, one. Okay? Why did I call you a blonde? What is the stereotype for a blonde? Okay, so yeah. So if he's acting like a blonde, I call him you're a blonde. See? So it's very tricky. There's a lot of things that can happen in a sentence, but in this case, it is an adjective saying that the boy is blonde, and it's an occurrence, right? So that's one example. So you need to ask these things in order to find the verb. It's easy if it's an action word. There's an action: sleeping, sleep, run, eat, cry, talk, shout. That's not a problem. But sometimes, is a verb. I am brown. What's the verb? Okay, so this is the verb. Obviously, because this is what? An adjective. This is the noun, I, which is also the subject. And we need to buy. I need to invest $1 in these things. All right. So the other form, if you want, they are girls. What's the subject? What's the subject?
They.
They is the subject. This is the verb. This is the predicate. It's also a noun. See? And sometimes the hard part for me when I was studying English was this portion, knowing which is which. I knew exactly how to say it. But we're doing this just for educational purposes, you know. Please do not let yourself be deceived into thinking that you're not fluent in English. In fact, it's hard because when I'm teaching on the other side, right now I'm teaching them only idioms. For example, stop it. I have to explain what that is. Or you said it. I have to explain what that is because that's the basis for idioms in English are the basis for learning to make sentences. The thing about English when we study it is a lot of us learn to speak English before we studied English. Even myself in the Philippines, I learned English first. I can speak English. Although rudimentary, of course, I was in elementary. But I spoke the language first, and that's how you become fluent. That's why in this church there is a need for a lot of us to become fluent in Spanish, to do ministry, in order to learn the language. Okay? Okay, so there are many action words. You know what the action words are? That's easy. There is am, is, and are. Okay? Then a verb can also start at the beginning of a sentence. So it is important to understand the verb, but having just a subject and a verb is not sufficient. Okay? For example, Jill run is not a complete word or a complete sentence. It's a sentence fragment. So when can a verb start a sentence? Well, now you're confused. You all know how to speak. You've done this many times in your life. You're just freaked out. because the question was an academic question.
Love.
Huh?
Love. Love is great.
Okay, but love there is a noun. You use the
It's not a
verb? No, love is a noun. Okay? Use an action word. Don't be afraid. For example, you Americans throw the ball, trash, okay, if you will. You start with the verb, right? See?
Give me a book.
Well, she is a noun. So, for example, run towards the house. Okay. There's your verb. A verb does not necessarily occur in the second portion of the sentence, but it can begin it. Okay? Now, you cannot just say, boy, run. That's not a complete sentence. You know who talks like that? Remember Tarzan? Boy, but. Game good. Boy, but. Cheetah, go! I mean, that don't make sense. But that's, when you talk like that, that's not a complete thing. Right? So, you can begin your sentences with verbs. For example, use running in a sentence. Beginning your sentence with running.
Running is a good exercise.
Oh, there you go. See? So a verb can begin, not just be a leader. Because again, when we talk in the subjects and the predicates, we think that they're there. Okay? So a verb can begin a sentence. Yeah? We can turn in the sentence into a proper sentence if you have the noun, if you have the verb, and you have the predicate. Correct? Alright. Next. You got this? So these are just tips. Huh? But make sure because it will come out. What is an article? In the English language, because an article is also a word that is used as a noun.
Yeah.
Articles of clothing, articles of the law. Okay? So what is an article? There are only 3 articles. What are they? It's actually the hardest part in English, I think. What are the 3 articles? Come on.
The.
Huh?
The.
The. Okay. The.
The.
And.
The.
What else? A.
A.
And.
An.
And. Alright. Do I say an apple? Or do I say a apple?
An.
Yeah. So, okay. So that means, because of your fluency, you now know when it is wrong or when it is right. Now, give me the rule. When a noun starts with a vowel, you use okay, an apple. But do I say a hour?
No, an hour.
No, I say an hour?
Yeah.
Okay. So, anything that starts with a vowel and anything that starts with an H. That's the general rule.
H is what? Mute.
Yeah. An hour. But do you say an hand?
A hand.
A hand. A hand. So what is the rule like one was saying?
Oh, it's a bit with that.
When the H is silent, it belongs with this group. See? You don't say unhypertensive, it's ahypertensive. Okay? When you pronounce your H, you start with an A. H and all the alphabet. Alphabet except vowels. Okay? So for vowels, then A for this portion, everything else, what's D? For the.
Plural. Oh, no. I'm sorry.
No, not really, but
I have to remember.
da. What is the da? Okay, here. This is what they say in English. A and an are, I don't know if this is even helping you, indefinite particles. The is a definite particle. What does that mean? It's actually very hard to teach. There's only three articles. This is the hardest portion. That is definite because it points. The difference is if the noun or subject you are talking about is specific or not. And the is a specific article and it's used for specific nouns. So, I am going to a library to study. Did they tell you where the library is?
No.
Okay, that's why you're going. I am going to a library. I'm going to a park. I am going to an an outing. Okay? But if you say I am going to the library, that means you're talking about a specific and definite thing. That's why the, THE, is a definite noun. Okay? I am going to sit in front of a computer in the lab. That means you don't know what computer you're going to sit in. I'm going to go to class and sit in a chair. Or I'm going to say I'm going to sit in the chair. Meaning that's the teacher's chair. This one, not there. See? Alright, did that help? A little bit, I hope. Okay. Okay, let's close. These lessons on grammar are not only hard to teach but also boring. I know exactly what you're talking about, okay? You don't have to tell me, I know it's boring. So, well, to you not yet, but to some people it is like, oh my god. When I was listening to this, I remember, because I already took English and my teacher already knew that I knew these things, I used to sleep in class.
Oh.
Fall asleep. One common rule in mind is that articles are not used when referring to a name. Do you call an McDonald's? Turn right at the burger store. Turn right at McDonald's. You don't say turn right a McDonald's. Okay? The boy was running very fast. Mike was running very fast. Okay? We don't use Mike. A boy was running very fast. You know, that could be, but you don't want to use this to refer to a name. You know? One common rule to keep in mind is that articles are not used when referring to a name. When there's a name, we don't use the articles. Okay? For example, turn right at the burger store. That's correct, right? Do you say turn right at the McDonald's? Actually, in English, that's wrong. They say turn right at McDonald's. Okay? So, the boy was running very fast. Right? But if you put a name, say Bobby, you don't say the Bobby. You say Bobby was running very fast. Okay? In most cases, you don't need an article when referring to a country, except when the name is referring to multiple countries or region. That's the last rule. If you say England or Scotland, you don't need an article. But if you are referring to a country like the United States, the United Kingdom, the Republic of the Philippines, you know, if you say Philippines, you don't say the Philippines. See? You just say Philippines. So, that's basically it. Alright, questions or comments? Other than it's boring, because I already admitted to that. Yeah.
I remember you said last week you're going to give us a copy.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we going to have it today or not next week?
No. Next week, what's next week? Next week is week 8. I'm going to do midterms on the 10th week. So, next week we'll review. And then exams the next week after.
Second week. Second week.
Week after, 2 weeks after. So, next week we'll do a review. And then week after that we'll do the midterms. Alright? Okay, any questions? Any objections? Alright, I'm going to my next class. You have a good break. Let's close in prayer. Lord, we thank you for this time. We thank you, Lord, that we are here to study, we are here to learn. I applaud that, Lord, in these, your students, your trainees. We ask, Lord, that you would bless us as we continue on. We pray praise in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.